On August 3rd, 2025, a 52-year-old American hunter, Asher Watkins, travelled from his home in Texas to hunt down one of the most dangerous animals in South Africa, the Cape buffalo. Renamed the Black Death for its notoriously aggressive and unpredictable behaviour, the people of South Africa knew not to mess with the buffalo, and for good reason. This 3,000-pound beast had taken the lives of more people than lions, elephants, rhinos, and even crocodiles. But Watkins didn't care. Watkins had been hunting for hours when suddenly he saw it. Through thick bushes, not so far away, stood the buffalo. This was his chance. With his rifle in hand, he aimed, held his breath, and fired. The buffalo was wounded, but not down. The chase was on. Watkins ran as fast as he could to catch up to the buffalo, but with low visibility and his age catching up with him, it got away. Little did Watkins know, these buffaloes held grudges. Watkins took a second to breathe and gather his thoughts, not realising the danger sneaking up on him. The buffalo had circled round until it was right behind the hunter. The buffalo edged closer and closer, but before Watkins realised, it was already too late. The 3-ton buffalo charged Watkins at full speed, throwing him into the air and piercing him in the process. Once Watkins landed, the buffalo continued to trample him until there was nothing left to save. By the time help arrived, the injuries were catastrophic. Emergency responders were called, but the hunter was pronounced dead at the scene. During the summer of 2013, in a small town in New Brunswick, Canada, 2 young brothers went for what they thought would be a normal sleepover at their friend's house. The brothers knew about the many animals their friend's father had owned, but only one in particular had caught their attention. In the corner of the room, watching the boys from a distance, was a 14-foot African rock python, weighing in at over 100 pounds. After a long day of having fun together, the boys called it a night and decided it was time for bed. The brothers slept in one room, while their friend and his dad slept in another on the opposite side of the house. The python lived in a glass enclosure, with a mesh top safely screwed into place. Little did anyone know, a screw was loose, and so without any difficulty, the giant python escaped through the roof of its cage and made its way into the vents. The snake ended up located right above where the brothers were peacefully sleeping, but unfortunately, due to the massive size and weight, the vents caved in and landed right on top of the brothers. As you may have guessed, a 100-pound constrictor is not something 2 sleeping children can fight off. The python wrapped around their necks, slowly restricting their breathing, leaving them with no chance to scream or run. In the morning, their friend's father went to wake up the brothers, but was instead met with a gruesome sight. Emergency services were called, but both boys were pronounced dead at the scene. Imagine this. You come home after a long, exhausting day. Your wife greets you at the door, happy to see that you're back safe and sound. You eat dinner together, unwind, and finally settle in for a well-earned night's rest. You're asleep, dreaming, and then without warning, a 3,000-pound cow crashes through the roof of your bedroom and lands directly on top of you. Well, this is exactly what happened to poor João Maria de Souza. The year was 2013. De Souza was putting on his pyjamas and was prepping for a well-deserved rest. He got into bed and fell asleep. Meanwhile, in the farmland, not so far away, stood a cow. Now, this wasn't any ordinary cow. This cow had plans of escape and a life of freedom. It wanted to break free from the farm life, and it knew exactly how to do it. Because the house was built into the hillside, the roof sat at the same level as the slope. Anything on the hill could simply walk right onto the roof. To the cow, this meant freedom. To De Souza, something else entirely. The cow sprinted as fast as it could until it reached the edge of the roof. It climbed up and took a couple of steps forward, not knowing that it was way too heavy for this roof to sustain its weight. Without warning, the cow broke through the asbestos roof and fell 8 feet straight into the bedroom, landing on top of João as he slept. His wife was sleeping right beside him, but somehow she wasn't harmed. She woke up to the terrifying sound of a 1.5-ton cow crushing her husband. She quickly called emergency services, and João was rushed to the hospital. He had suffered a fractured leg and severe internal injuries, but reports say he was still conscious when he was taken in. Unfortunately, João died a day later from internal injuries. The family believe that the cow did not unalive João, but it was the fault of the medical team not treating him sooner. On April 12, 2019, on a quiet rural property near Gainesville, Florida, a 75-year-old Marvin Hayos went about his usual routine of tending to his animals. Since the age of 10, Marvin had dedicated his life to working with and caring for creatures, gaining experience few could match. For decades, he had raised and bred exotic species, including one of the most dangerous birds on the planet, the cassowary. This specific bird can grow up to 6 feet tall and weigh up to 130 pounds or 60 kilograms. Armed with super strong legs and dagger-like claws up to 4 inches long, the cassowary is designed to unalive. Add the ability to run at 30 miles per hour and it becomes a bird like no other. And this wasn't a wild animal encounter either. This was his own bird. Marvin was getting ready for another day of tending to his pets. He put on his boots and walked towards the enclosure, unaware that this routine check and feeding would be his last. Inside the cassowary enclosure, Marvin went about his routine, clearing droppings and tidying the space. But then his foot hit a stray bucket of water and he fell. And in that instant, everything changed. Cassowaries are not just big birds, they are deadly predators when provoked. On the ground, a human is no longer seen as a neutral presence. They are a target, and that's exactly what Marvin became. The bird moved in, silent but fast. Using its powerful legs, the cassowary attacked Marvin while he was down, striking with its deadly claws and overwhelming him before he could get back up. And in moments, the routine he had done 1,000 times turned fatal. He was found shortly after on the ground by someone on the property, who quickly called emergency services. Paramedics rushed to the scene and found him alive, but his injuries were devastating. He was taken to the hospital, where he later succumbed to his wounds. The incident became one of the only recorded fatal cassowary attacks in modern history. It was a night of celebration in Tirunelveli, India. Drums echoed through the streets, food stalls lined the roads, and devotees moved from prayer to prayer in a festival meant to bring blessings and good fortune. Among the crowd was a 35-year-old Bhadrakali who had come to pay her respects at the Sudalai temple and take part in the celebration. Tragically, the night would not unfold as she expected. The year was 2018. It was early Sunday morning around 3 a.m. Bhadrakali took in the atmosphere. She noticed an elephant tied to a post near the temple grounds, standing under the supervision of its handler. In Indian culture, elephants are believed to bring power and blessings to those who worship them, but despite their spiritual status, they remain wild animals, intelligent, powerful, and unpredictable. Bhadrakali approached the elephant peacefully. What happened next was anything but. Bear in mind, this elephant weighed around 8,000 pounds and stood at around 10 foot tall. As Bhadrakali stood close to the elephant, she reached out with her hand to touch it as a sign of respect, a gesture many had done before. But in that instant, something changed. Without any warning, the elephant became agitated. Witnesses watched in horror as the animal wrapped its trunk around her body and pulled her underneath its massive frame. With several powerful steps, it trampled her, crushing her against the ground. Bystanders watched in disbelief, all while the trainer did everything he could to stop the elephant's violence. When the dust settled, it was clear that Bhadrakali stood no chance of survival. Regardless, she was sent to the hospital, where doctors placed her on a ventilator to try and save her life. Despite their efforts, she later died from her injuries at around 7:30 a.m. What began as an act of faith ended in tragedy, a reminder that even animals seen as sacred can turn deadly in a single irreversible moment.